Yes, sir. Welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you. This is going to be an extremely quick, at least I hope I don't ramble too much, power rankings update. I told you guys I was going to give you an update for all of the top of the line categories in the video format once a week leading up to the Oscars, which of course this year is on March 15th. Let's take a look real quick at the awards calendar and see where we are currently in awards season. So I am recording this on February 10th, which is an interesting niche in this timeline if you're looking at the awards season calendar over the next month and a half or so, because we just got our Directors Guild of America, or the DGA, winners this past Saturday, just a few days ago. And of course that went to Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another, which was my prediction, by the way. Thank you very much. Although I missed Ava Victor for Sorry Baby. She did not win First Time Director, so basically I suck and got 50%, but whatever. Voting is currently open for things like the Actor Awards, or previously known as the SAG Awards, and the BAFTA Awards. They are currently voting as we speak. So keep that in mind when you think of results as they start coming in, because like I said, PTA just got that DGA win, which I think he had directors sealed up anyway. Of course, Ryan Coogler's been coming on strong as of late, and that would be a very inspired win also. But I just don't see PTA losing director or adapted screenplay. You'll see when I get to my power ranking slides here in a second. The only other thing that we really have on the horizon, this is what I like to call the calm before the storm, really until we get to that week of the BAFTAs, which this year falls, as you see, on February 22nd. So really until we get there, it's kind of a couple of weeks of just various institutions are casting their ballots, they're voting themselves, and then kind of making us wait until we see who the winners are. So the BAFTA should have a pretty big influence this year because it's going to be the last award show that they see before they start voting. And another big show this year is going to be the SAG Awards, or the Actor Awards as it's newly named, on March 1st, which by the way is my son's 7th birthday. So I probably won't be watching those live. So just, choosing family over film. It's weird, I know. By the way, the WGA winners are a week before that on the 8th. I don't think that's going to have a huge bearing, though. We've already got our nominations, and we basically know 99.9% clarity on who the winners in both the screenplay categories are going to be. In fact, that's my segue. Dude, was that good or what? That was a good pivot, I gotta be honest. Starting with adapted screenplay, we were just talking about that. I don't think the WGA is going to matter at that point. Voting will be closed anyway for the Oscars when we get those results. But even if not, this is PTA's award here for One Battle After Another in adapted. Hamnet is a number 2 probably, is probably the runner-up. But I honestly don't think, I would be shocked. Just like I said last week, I just actually did a video of my Oscar night shockers. This would be in that top 10. If PTA were to lose this, or if Coogler were to lose his for original, those are the types of wins on Oscars night that would go into like an all-time shocker for me. And then looking at original screenplay is almost the same commentary. Nothing changed on this slide from last week. I think Sinners and Ryan Coogler win this pretty easily, just like PTA is going to do for adapted. I do think it was just an accident for Jafar Panahi. He stands a chance at an upset because of his narrative with the country of Iran and they might want to award him and lift him up for being such an established and kind of risk-taking filmmaker. But I think it's a far-fetched. In fact, sentimental value might even be in that 2 spot. They're really kind of tied for me mentally, but I don't think it matters in either of these screenplay categories. I think these are almost like chalk them up, get the parking spaces reserved for these guys. Coogler, PTA, those are your screenplay winners this year. Moving on to some categories that are a little more interesting in terms of what the result's going to be. I had this diatribe last week, so I won't go into a full 5 or 10 minute spiel as to why my prediction is a little bit different than the power ranking. I'll just kind of tell you briefly why that is. Teyana Taylor is the presumed frontrunner right now, and I agree with that. That's why I have her at number 1 for One Battle After Another, especially with PTA winning that DGA award this weekend. That's off to a good start in kind of solidifying it as the strongest film in the race this year, despite the 16 nominations for Sinners, which is also very, very strong. But in terms of guild industry accolades, we've really only got the 1, honestly, so far. But still, it went to PTA and One Battle. So Teyana kind of stays put where she is there. In other words, if somebody else had won that DGA like Coogler, then maybe Teyana's not as strong as we think she is, but no problems there. I've also got Amy Madigan and Wunmi Masaku from Sinners, kind of both like 2A and 2B. I'll talk a little bit about my prediction. That's what the Oscar statue means. That's who I'm predicting to win it. And this is the first time that it's veered off of the number 1 in the power ranking, which is like the consensus number 1. But I think Wunmi is going to win that BAFTA award, and she might even have success at the SAG or the Actor Awards. Right now, I also think that probably is going to go to Amy Madigan. I haven't done those predictions yet. Officially, the final predictions for those, but I think that probably is Amy Madigan's award. But like I said last week, even if Amy Madigan wins that, Wound Me would not be losing to somebody in direct contention with her from one battle, in this case, Teyana Taylor. So I think Wunmi Mosaku is going to win the BAFTA, and she's going to ride that wave at the right time, the momentum at the right time. They're going to want to award centers in categories that it makes sense to do so. And if she surges and gives a great speech, and it's just an uplifting thing, and then they start voting right after that, I think it could be enough to topple Teyana Taylor and kind of take over that one spot. I was very, very close to moving my Oscar statue back up to Teyana Taylor there, but I just feel like this category is too wide open. It's not a sure thing at this point. It's really not. You know, I think Teyana is in the best possible position right this second. But even the sentimental value ladies, really specifically Inga Ibsdottir Lilius, could also upset in this category because she could also be a threat to win the BAFTA and have a very similar trajectory to what Wunmi, I think, is going to have. And by the way, if you want to see my full breakdown on why I think Wunmi is going to win, I give you all the criteria that I think would lead her to a victory in last week's Power Rankings video, which also comes out on Thursday. So last Thursday, you can find that video here on the channel, probably in the same playlist. Looking at supporting actor, I didn't do anything with this slide. I was going to switch Benicio and Sean Penn 2 and 3, but then I'm like, well, whatever. Sean Penn got the European Awards accolades last week, so he's got that international kind of approval or push that I honestly didn't think he would get, or I hadn't really thought about it, but I was surprised to hear it. But right now, I think this is Stellan Skarsgård's award for sentimental value, and it might be the only prize that sentimental value gets on the night of the Academy Awards too. First of all, it gives me a little bit of pause, right? Like, oh, is it going to win something else? Would it only get one win, or would it blank? What would be more likely? You know, I start kind of having that debate in my head. But then also, I think to myself, well, could it really go empty-handed? I just don't, it just seems really strange to me that a film with 9 nominations that they love, that is going to have the backing of a lot of international votes, would go home empty-handed. Now, of course, it could happen. It's happened before, and it probably will happen this year. But I just think Stellan's going to win this based on his career narrative and his career in general. He's been around forever. People love him. He won the Globe, right? I also think he's going to be the BAFTA winner, which will be right before they start voting, like I said earlier. So I think that obviously is a big push for him too if that ends up happening. Now, if somebody else gets the BAFTA, that's not Paul Mescal, which, by the way, he could get that based on what they do over there. But if somebody else besides him who is in the race and on this slide here gets it, then we could have a situation going into the Oscars of like, wow, it could be like the Wunmi situation, like I was just saying for supporting actress. But one that's even easier to talk about here is lead actress. In fact, I don't even really need to talk about it. This is Jessie Buckley's for Hamnet. She's been winning everywhere. She hasn't really shown any weakness. The film showed a slight weakness in terms of its performance at the BAFTAs. It did miss some categories there, being a very British, like, centric film that I would have thought it would have gotten in everywhere it was eligible. And it did miss a couple categories that I was somewhat surprised. So even though the film's a little weaker than maybe we realized, it's not going to negatively affect Jessie Buckley. I mean, it might take a few votes away from her, but I mean, I love Rose Byrne, but she's the only nomination for that movie. And I was just talking about sentimental value. Renate Reinsve is my number 3, but those last 3 there, 3, 4, and 5, I mean, it could be any of them. You know, I think Byrne and Buckley are the top 2, and then it's a hodgepodge of those final 3. Kate Hudson's going to have the surge of like being kind of the surprise nomination. She's got probably the most lineage in Hollywood, even over somebody like Emma Stone here, and it's been a long time since she's been recognized, so she's a threat if enough people buy into that narrative. But she's also the only nomination for her film, just like Rose Byrne. So I think that makes her a little bit more of a far fetch. And then Emma Stone is Emma Stone. So whenever she's in the mix, she could win. I mean, she wakes up in the morning and they could give her an Oscar. So don't count her out either. And this one's a little bit trickier. I'm still predicting Timothée Chalamet to win for Marty Supreme. I do think Leo, Wagner Moura, and Ethan Hawke and Michael B. Jordan, like literally any of these guys could win the Oscar. You know, any of them. Leo, you know, the question has come up in my mind, is Leo win competitive really, or is he just kind of that Hollywood like legacy staple in a top of the line category here from the strongest film, One Battle, or one of, if you want to say Sinners is the other. I don't know. I think he is win competitive though because of his name and because there's a lot of people that even I talk to on my channel, my members and live streams that are like, I hope Leo wins this because he should have 2 or 3 more Oscars by now in his life. And I agree with that. So I don't know how strong that kind of mentality will be when it comes to the voting. But I think unless the movie is a sweeper on Oscars night, he probably doesn't win. but he could. And you have to, or at least I keep open the possibilities until the data points make something obvious. The reason I don't think it's completely obvious for Timothée Chalamet, even though it is, we do have a lot to support him winning it, is because I think the SAG could be a speed bump for him. I said that on last week's Power Rankings video also. They might not give it to him because they just gave it to him a year ago, not even, for A Complete Unknown. And that was the only televised award that he got last year. Great. I love the speech, but it was also rubbed some people the wrong way. Maybe even some people in the SAG it rubbed the wrong way. As his kind of like Marty Supreme character almost. It was a very, art imitating life situation. But I didn't have a problem with it. But I don't know if enough people did that they're like, oh, well, I gave it to him last year and he had that weird speech, so I'm going to vote for Leo or Ethan Hawke, which also I think is a threat at the SAG Awards. The SAGs love a narrative. Okay, don't forget that. Timothée Chalamet had a narrative, or has one, I should say, but his narrative is more for the Academy and for the Oscars. He already got the SAG Award. Now, if he didn't get that award last year for A Complete Unknown, if Brody had won there also, let's just say, or somebody else, then he would absolutely 1,000% be winning it this year. But he did get it last year. So his narrative has a little bit of a niche in that armor now, right? And of the 5 you're looking at, Ethan Hawke probably has the loudest narrative that would scream to them the loudest. So he could upset at the SAG. If he does, he's probably in that number 2 spot. He probably jumps Wagner Moura and Leo and goes to number 2, or maybe even 1, depending on what we think the industry guild crossover there is. The BAFTA is going to be a big one too. If Timothée wins the BAFTA, I'm going to feel much better about predicting him to win the Oscar. If he doesn't for some reason, if that goes to somebody different, maybe that's not even anybody I've mentioned so far, then what the hell is going on? Then we're in a supporting actress situation this year where we don't really know. We won't know until the night of. Looking at director, we have the DGA results, which makes this slide a much easier conversation to have. Last week when I did this video, we didn't have that. And also Ryan Coogler was on a bit of a surge, or I should say Sinners was on a bit of a surge in the last couple of weeks with, even the BAFTA nominations that it got, it overperformed in my opinion. It missed a couple of categories, but, it wasn't like, oh my God, Sinners is weak. But I think PTA, especially with that DGA win, this is it. One Battle is the film this year in terms of like awards notoriety. Now, Sinners is right there. I don't like to downplay another film's credibility or importance, because I think another film is better in terms of what's more awards worthy. They both are, and they're both phenomenal. And like I said last week, and I've been saying for a while, it doesn't. Whoever wins, I'm good. I can't lose with whoever wins Best Picture this year. I love both of them. Ironically, neither one of them would get my vote. The 10 for Best Picture in a ranked system. If I was ranking them and doing the rank voting, and I'm going to do that video, by the way, but if I was doing that right now off the top of my head, it would probably be like Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, then probably One Battle, and then maybe Sinners, so like a third and fourth situation. But they would be top 5 for sure. But it's got to be PTA this year. This is his year, and I know everybody's saying it, and some people are tired of hearing people say it, but it just is. It just is. Now, this is before the PGA, which I mentioned could be a situation where that goes to Sinners. There's only been 10 times in the last, since 1992 that the PGA winner has not gone on to win Best Picture, which really gives me pause in making that prediction for Sinners to win PGA, which is kind of currently what I have. The box office success, and they love movies that make money there, the producers, right? But I just feel like One Battle might be a lot stronger than, for some reason, some of us want to give it credit for. And that it's just going to take care of business, just like Anora did last year. Anora won the PGA DGA combo last year. Anora, made money, but it was not like, a Sinners situation where it was like blowing the box office doors off. So it's probably going to be One Battle there too, although I do think it's going to be a close race with Sinners because of the added ingredient of the box office success there. And of course, the 16 nominations, was newsworthy and everybody heard about that. Nonetheless, I think PTA wins director, especially with the DGA in his pocket right now. I don't think that's going to be an issue. And the segue there now with the PGA discussion leads to Best Picture here, which I still have One Battle after another as my predicted winner, is also number 1 in the power rankings. So I didn't change anything from last week. As you can see here, it's the exact same 10, exact same order. I think, and I said this last week, that top 4, if anything that was not in that top 4 right there, One Battle, Sinners, Sentimental Value, or Hamnet, if one of those did not win Best Picture, I would literally, my mind would fall out of my skull. Like, I would be blown away, shocked. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be one battle after another, most likely, but if not, it's going to be Sinners. And if it's not one of those two, it would be in a ranked voting debacle if one of them didn't win, and Hamnet with the Golden Globe win, and sentimental value with the international piece, that those two factors were enough to get it to rank higher in the ranked voting system. But that would be just an all-time shocker. It's definitely going to be One Battle or Sinners, but right now my predicted winner is One Battle, and I also think it's pretty easily number one in the power rankings for everybody now too. Now, if you want to predict something different, and if you want to go out on a limb for Sinners, especially as we get closer to the award show, then you can do that. And if the precursors tell us something, you know, if One Battle starts losing, like SAG Ensemble, the BAFTA, you know, then you go, okay, well, maybe it's not One Battle. But right now there's nothing to tell us that, and there's nothing to tell me that either, which is why it's also still my prediction to win Best Picture. All right, but as always, I want to hear what you guys think. I told you it was going to be a quick one this week, but once a week on Thursdays, I'm going to put out these updated power rankings for you, where I go through the top of the line categories to let you know if I think anything's changing in my mind, if there's been any shakeups on the circuit, various critic circles even, and of course when we get to the major televised precursors, which the next major one won't really be till the 22nd with the BAFTAs. We do get the Independent Spirit Awards on the 15th, but I don't usually often factor those in to my Oscar predictions. But other than that, we're just kind of in a wait and see holding pattern. I want to know what you guys think though. Is One Battle After Another still the presumed front runner in your eyes? Do you think Sinners, or maybe even Hamnet or Sentimental Value, could do something crazy on Oscars night? I just did my Oscars night shockers video. I'll tag it for you on here so you can check it out if you want to. And that went all the way back to Marissa Tomei's win in the early 90s, the 10 moments that really, really shocked me. And I got to be honest, I feel like if one of those two films didn't win Best Picture this year, it would be on that list immediately. And don't forget to follow me over on the Award Expert app, where you can see all the bottom of the line predictions as well. International feature, of course, also the new casting award and all of the technical categories, including the shorts, which I have seen all of those. And next week I was working with Roadside Attractions that was able to get me screeners to all of the shorts. So now that I've watched them all and I've written little mini reviews for each of them, I'm going to hold that video till closer to the release, because they're going to be releasing them in theaters on February 20th. So towards the end of next week, I will have a breakdown of all the Oscars shorts for you. But you can see my predictions for those and everything else on the Award Expert app. And you can also see all of my thoughts for all the new films I catch, because I usually log and leave a little blurb or two on Letterboxd for those, but I'm just there under the awards garage. I will see you guys out here very, very soon. Hopefully you don't wait until next week to come back for my power rankings video. I got a lot of stuff on the channel for you. Make sure you check it out. I'll see you guys then in the garage.